Hi and welcome. My name is Samir Dasani and I'm the co-director of Peace Vigil, where we make practical tools to dismantle bigotry. Today we're doing a special event to commemorate the upcoming anniversary of India's independence. It's important to remember that India is one of the only countries to have achieved its independence not through armed struggle, though that was a component of the freedom movement, but through non-violent civil disobedience. The nonviolent philosophy, called Satyagraha by its chief inventor M.K. Gandhi, was developed not in India but in South Africa. This excerpt from a Peace Vigil program features our co-director Shirin, who is one of the world's foremost thinkers when it comes to how to undermine hate and prejudice. As part of her research, Shirin took a deep dive into the archives to understand how Gandhi developed Satyagraha and the tools of nonviolent civil disobedience. If you like this video and want to see more like this, please do remember to hit like and subscribe. If you'd like to get in touch with us, feel free to write to us at info@peacevigil.net. With that, please enjoy this presentation by Peace Vigil co-founder Shirin. So I'm just going to share this screen.
वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे.
The first Satyagraha by Gandhi. It's a term that was coined by his nephew actually, and it is a word that they have of Satyagraha. What does it actually mean?
Ji, I would say Satya meaning truth and Graha meaning embrace, to adopt, and so the embracing truth.
Thank you, Manjula ji. So Satya, as Manjula ji said, is the truth, and agraha, to make an agraha karna, it means to insist. So when you insist on truth, that is Satyagraha. But what many people forget is the definition of Satya according to Gandhi. It's truth, and truth according to him is life. So anything that is linked to life, love, justice, cooperation, these kind of things, they form Satya. So Satya is not some truth out there, that people say, okay, it's my connection with God. It may be, but it's much more than that. So when he's saying that I will insist on the truth, he's talking about the various things that make life possible, and the topmost among them is love. Now I'm going to tell you in his own words that he said truth implies love. Truth is life. Firmness or agraha is a synonym for force. And he says, I thus began to call the Indian movement Satyagraha, that is to say, the force which is born of truth and love or non-violence. And he gave up the use of the phrase passive resistance. And that's very important, that passive resistance has a different connotation. Here he's talking of a force. He's saying, I insist on doing what is right. He's also at this time saying that law or no law, if I believe that it is the truth, it is the just thing to do, I will do it. So it is about justice. Jagmohan Singh ji is saying 1890 to 1900 is the period in which British policies caused the worst famine. Exactly right. And that's why Jagmohan Singh ji, I mentioned in the beginning that
the situation in India was so bad. There was extreme poverty and hunger That is the reason why a lot of these people who came to South Africa agreed to come, because the terms that were offered to them in that indenture contract were that they will be guaranteed work, they will get food, they will get accommodation. So out of desperation, they accepted these terms. Of course, many of them were cheated as well. On the whole, this was not a great thing for Indians to come to South Africa. But at that time, they were so desperate because of the British policies in India that they agreed to get into this indenture situation. Look at these pictures. These are some of the images of Indians in India due to the economic policies of the British. Coming back to the first Satyagraha.
Now, the Asiatic Registration Act that comes here, we're going to talk about that. And I want to tell you why this Satyagraha happened. It happened because of this law. This was a direct result of this law. And what did this law say? It is basically a pass law. It is an identity card law, which says to you that if you don't have this thumb printed identity card, you cannot move around in the province. If you want to come into the province, this is all for Indians and the Chinese. If you want to come inside, you will also need this pass. And basically what it is doing, and we can put it in context of today, is that people are being denied rights based on a piece of paper. So you are denied just common basic rights of movement, of employment. These people could not be employed if they didn't have the pass. This is entirely based on their being Indian and Chinese. If they need the pass. The white people, they don't. And this happens in Transvaal. This is again one of the old pictures here, which is people of different religions of Indian origin here. Now, this is an iconic moment in the history of Satyagraha. It's the first mass meeting that declares that we are going to break the law. And it happens at the Empire Theatre in Johannesburg in 1906. This is a historic event. And I want to read to you what they said there. Just think about it. These are people who were, until now, they were trying everything, pleading, they were writing pleas with signatures. This is what was said. Should the governments reject the humble prayer of the Indian community against the Asiatic Ordinance, every Indian present at this meeting solemnly and sincerely resolves that rather than submit to this tyrannical law and abide by its un-British provisions, he will prefer to go to jail and will continue to do so until it pleases His Majesty the King Emperor to grant relief. This is quite a thing to say for a small minority group in a country that is not the country of their origin in most cases. Another interesting thing to note is that over 3,000 people came to this meeting. The auditorium was owned by a Jewish man. This whole thing, the meeting that happened, was multilingual. It was addressed by a person called Abdul Ghani. Dr. Godfrey is a Christian of Indian origin. And also in Tamil, Mr. Naidu spoke. GKT Naidu is a very big name in the Indian community in South Africa. And declaration of civil disobedience that we've discussed is made. And very beautifully, a coalition with the Chinese community is established. Look at this now. This is a photograph that is amazing. Look at this. These are 4,200 Chinese workers in South Africa. If you look there, sorry, you can't see my cursor, but if you look at the right on the top of the picture, it says the roll call 4,200 coolies. So the Chinese, they were also referred to as coolies. This picture was taken in Witwatersrand, between 1904 and 1910. What is happening now is that solidarity and common purpose is being established by Gandhi and his friends. Gandhi goes to meetings in Chinese residential areas. The Chinese representatives come to Indian meetings. It's a beautiful display of solidarity in those days. And this is because they are both targeted. These communities are both targeted. It is no longer just an Indian struggle. It is an Indian and Chinese struggle. And then, this is very important, is the first imprisonment of Gandhi. It is in 1908. He is arrested with Lengchin and Thambi Naidu. Thambi Naidu is the same guy I have mentioned earlier. And this is for not registering under the Asiatic Registration Act. So this is beautiful. There is a Tamil-speaking person. There is a Gujarati-speaking person. And there is Lengchin, whose photograph I've not been able to find. But all these people, including Gandhi, show that if you want to do something, you have to lead by example, and that personal sacrifice will happen. If you really believe in something and you lead by example, it will happen. I've given you some examples. That's Thambi Naidu's picture on the right on the top. There's, of course, Rosa Parks. There is Martin Luther King Jr. That is a delegation of the Chinese community who were part of the civil disobedience. And then Gandhi is arrested, and then General Smuts, who's the general at that time in the Transvaal, he has an agreement with Gandhi, and he says that, okay, we will, if you register voluntarily, we will take back the law. And Gandhi believes him, and he goes and registers voluntarily with Mr. Thambi Naidu, and he's attacked by his own people, his own comrades, because they see him as somebody who's betraying the cause. And what happens then is the government betrays Gandhi. It goes back on its word. So now what happens because of this is the whole organization breaks down. You know, there's breaking of ranks, which is what the colonial powers used to do a lot. You know, they would make you believe in something, then they'll go back on you on their word, and you know that broke the ranks. Gandhi loses reputation. So he renews civil disobedience. Now, what does it mean? It means that the traders will say, I'm going to trade. I'm not going to carry that piece of paper for identity no matter what. I'm going to trade without it. Indians are going to enter Transvaal, and the Chinese also did this, that we are going to enter Transvaal without this piece of paper. They were going to do mass meetings. Because of that, deportation started. And people were arrested also. So deportations means people were sent back to India. There were arrests made, and in this, Hira Lal, one of Gandhi's sons, was also arrested. Kasturba or Kasturbai, which was her original name, and 4 other people wrote in the press saying how bad this is. You know, their husbands are being arrested. And the first Indian Women's Association is founded by Mrs. Veeramal Naidu, Mrs. Patel, whose first name I could not find, and Sonia Schlesin, who was actually the secretary of Gandhi. She was a Jewish woman. And then, you know, what happens is they decide that they're going to burn the certificates that are their identity certificates that they had got in the first place, you know, when they got cheated, when they had registered. So they went and they did it. And what is quite amazing is that it's also a symbolic thing. Because they come outside of a mosque, which is the Hamidiya Mosque in Johannesburg, as an act of defiance against registration and immigration laws, and they burn this. And this is actually a sculpture made by a South African Indian artist. There's a cauldron there, and when you go near it, you see a pass burning. These are pass laws, basically. You know, later on, the notorious pass laws are part of this. So this is the Hamidiya Mosque. These are some of the women that you see who participated in civil disobedience. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures, because in those days, just, you know, women didn't get photographed as much. The white women did get photographed more than Indian women. On the bottom right is a picture of women who were imprisoned in civil disobedience. The lady here, Waliamma, Mudaliar. She actually died because of the imprisonment. And, these are all women who participated. Many more participated. We just don't have the pictures. And then Gandhi goes to England with Haji Habib, his friend who's a merchant from Johannesburg area. And he sends Henry Pollock, who is actually a Jewish man from England. He sends him to India to advocate on behalf of South African Indians. And what Gandhi is asking the Indians in India to help the South African Indians, because he's saying that, look, they are also part of your community. I'm sorry, I won't be able to read this whole thing, but if anybody wants later on, they can read it. But again, there are mixed names here: Hindu, Muslim, Christian, so on. And then, because what has happened, because of the whole thing that happened, the civil disobedience and all, he starts the Tolstoy Farm. Why? Because people have lost their jobs. They have nowhere to stay, many of them. There's not enough food. So it is really a financial, from a practical point of view, that's the solution. He gets this beautiful piece of land that is donated by Herman Kallenbach, who was his friend in South Africa, continued his friendship for a very long time. He donated this land. He was a Jewish man, white man. He gave this land to Gandhi. And so this was for all those who had lost their jobs and homes, even though not more than 60, 70 people at a time stayed there. But, people would stay, and then once they found jobs or other ways to support themselves, they would move on. And Kallenbach even created a school there and an extra building to as a workshop, and living quarters for extra people and so on. So it was really born out of practical necessity, but it also, again, I think, tried to build a community where people would do manual labor. They would live as a large, big family. The children would grow up together. They would farm together and so on. So this was more than just a place to stay. And Gandhi believed that it was the Tolstoy Farm that prepared people for the later struggle, which was the really big struggle, which I'm going to talk about right now. Sorry, I have to rush through this now. But in 1913, the Supreme Court in South Africa, it decided that all non-Christian marriages will be illegal. So what does that mean is that all the Hindu women and the Muslim women in the Indian community, they are basically told that, look, your marriages are not legal, all your children are illegal, and there will be no inheritance, and so on. So obviously this is a huge threat to the Indian family unit. And so women, they join protests in large number. This becomes really big. So now two big issues come together: the marriage law and the £3 tax that we have talked about earlier, which if you would no longer want to be an indentured laborer, you will have to pay the £3 tax that we've already talked about. Now something amazing happens, and guys, this is something that we must remember when we are talking about Gandhi in India, is this huge thing that starts in South Africa now. So the marriages were attacked, movement was attacked, a lot of laws came that attacked people, and women joined in, families joined in, everyone's joining into protest. But now they turn it into a mass movement. So it is an unprecedented civil disobedience that has ever been seen in that known history at that time, because it's a matter of dignity, it's a matter of survival for most Indians. So what happens is, from Durban railway station, 16 women and men, including Kasturba Gandhi, they start from, so let's go to this map quickly. This map here. They go from down there, in Durban. Okay, but Durban, you see on the right side, on the right of Lesotho, on the east of Lesotho. From there, they travel all the way to Johannesburg. So they break the pass laws. They are breaking the pass laws because they're not allowed to enter. Firstly, the government doesn't arrest them because they know that, okay, if we arrest them, this is going to become quite big. But then the women refuse to move and they are arrested. Another group of women starts from what is now Johannesburg and goes to Durban and then comes back to Johannesburg to break the law. because they want to support their sisters. All these women are jailed for 3 months. It's a huge time, and all the men take care of the children who are left behind. They take care of the food, they clean the house. The other community members come and start taking care of the children and of the household. So this is the beginning of something very big when we talk about activism. Why do women don't get involved sometimes? It's because, they also have the double responsibility of taking care of homes. But here they actually devise a system that men are making meals, men are cleaning, other households are joining in the raising of the kids, and taking care of the kids. So that is what happens. Then what happens is the railway workers join the strike. The miners join the strike. With the railway workers and miners, largely because of the help of Mr. Thambi Naidu, who speaks Tamil. Gandhi doesn't speak Tamil. So there are, a lot of comrades Gandhi has who help in this. And then the finale. It is beautiful. It is called the Great March of 1913. Look at this. Gandhi starts to walk with about 2,000 plus people, with children, with women. And as he starts to walk, look at the pictures, not the best quality, but there are people joining. Do you see from the sides? People are joining from the sides. And Gandhi is arrested. Every big leader is arrested on this march. They are joining from various parts of the country. So it's not just one part. All the major leaders get arrested. But guess what? The march continues. The march continues without the leaders. And that is real civil disobedience for you. It's called the Great March of 1930. What happens in 1914? The 3 pound tax that was imposed is abolished because of the result of this huge civil disobedience. All the Indian customary marriages are considered valid. Unfortunately, the past laws are coming and going. They continue well into the apartheid era. Now, this is the legacy of Gandhi. And Gandhi at this time ends the Satyagraha because he had a deal with the British. He had, he had a specific demand. He had a few specific demands. They were met. So he ends the Satyagraha in 1917. Actually, the indentured labor system from India is abolished. So now Gandhi is going back. And the question really for us is, did Satyagraha end? These are pictures of defiance against apartheid, which comes later. So apartheid in theory, not in theory, actually in practice has already started. But like as a formal thing, it only comes later on, a few decades after Gandhi leaves. But these are Indians in South Africa. They are not the people who went back to India. They are Indians who stayed. These are pictures of Indians participating against apartheid, in the protests against apartheid, in civil disobedience against apartheid. And this is Satyagraha in India that happened later when Gandhi was the leader. So the real question is, did Satyagraha really end? And to wrap up my presentation, I'd like to end with who was Gandhi when he left South Africa. He's obviously 21 years older, but everyone ages differently. I've been told by numerous people, Abhi tum young ho, you're so young, so you believe in these things. And, when you get older, you will stop believing in these things. With this guy, things happen the other way. So, there are people who become more interested in these things as they get older. He no longer identifies as the person in 1893, which means that he's not concerned that he's going to not travel first class. Those are not his worries anymore. He has a sense of justice, which has gone from his individual, whatever happened to him, to the community. The definition of community has expanded for him. He was first an individual. He was thinking about the merchants, then it became the indentured laborers, then it became Indians. And he has a very high concern for Indians. He really thinks of India as his community, Indians as his community, which is why, he's more concerned about Indians than other people, perhaps, which happens to many leaders. He has lived the diversity of religion, caste, and race to some extent. He has personally sacrificed for things. He's a representative of Indians internationally. He has friends across continents now who will be speaking on his behalf. He has left behind something that plays a pivotal role in the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa, and he's getting ready to fight a bigger battle. You know, he's 21 years older now, but he has another few decades to go in India, where he fights the British colonial rule in India. So friends, thank you. Thank you for being so patient and listening to this. I have more stuff, but we have limited time.
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरो नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान.
Thank you so much for that, Shireen. That was Shireen, who's our co-director here at Peace Vigil and someone who's done a lot of research on Gandhi. If you enjoyed that presentation, please remember we have workshops that delve into Gandhi's history and also into issues like Islamophobia. We have those workshops regularly, and if you're interested in being part of one of our workshops, online workshops these days, you can always email us. That's info@peacevigil.net. Again, that's info, I-N-F-O, at peacevigil, one word, .net. Also, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And you can always, as I said, you can always write to us. Even if you'd like to volunteer, we're always looking for volunteers. We also have a new comedy series out called Mouth Open, Logic Shut, which is very popular. And I would invite those of you who are interested in drama and comedy maybe to work with us on that. With that, I'm Samir Dosani, the co-director of Peace Vigil. Thanks so much for watching.